Hey everyone, I'm Weldon Williford with eXp Realty, and this is the November Wayne County monthly market update. The weather has started cooling outside, and so has the housing market. The theme for this month is the sellers are beginning to throw in the towel. Home sellers are now starting to reduce prices as buyers struggle to afford their monthly payments due to soaring inflation from groceries, utilities, insurance, and taxes. While the decrease in the active median list prices were relatively small this month, it's statistically significant as list prices had been marching higher just about every month this year. The average sold prices began to decline in March of this year, and many sellers have been sitting and hoping selling values to derive from last year's inflated comparable sales. When the realtors go out and they do a market analysis on your home to sell it, they'll use home prices comparables from the past 6 months, typically to do that market analysis. And so, obviously last year's prices have been, inflated. And really ever since the COVID crisis, when, all the stimulus money went out and everything, everybody kind of went nuts with the, in the home in the housing local housing market and throughout the country. The rest of the country has started cooling quite a bit, and I'll get into just a minute why our market's a little bit different. The main issue is that year over year, the sales data has been declining over the past several months. If this trend continues, we could see a possible full annual decline in home prices for the first time, most likely since the 2008 Great Recession. The number of days it takes to sell a home has been sitting around a stubborn 70 days for the past 4 months. And this is a major contributing factor to the price declines as sellers need their equity to make their next moves. North Carolina has previously been insulated from all the national sales declines by all the business and the industry that has moved here, along with the continued trends of people moving from the high tax blue states to the lower tax red states. And I'm sure the most recent election everybody's talked about New York City may even boost that trend even further. And our area, North Carolina, Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill, we're 1 hour away. We are still one of the strongest markets in the nation. However, a falling tide lowers all boats. And again, so what you're seeing throughout the country, it is hitting here. Again, not as severely as in some other markets where I've seen in different areas as much as 20% declines. Like I said, we have not seen anything like that here as of yet. And I'll show you the data here in a few minutes. We're looking to between 2 and 4% declines, which again, it's not great to have any kind of real estate decline. However, 2 to 4% is not not the end of the world. Seasonal trends are beginning to take effect. We're going into the holiday season, and other data is relatively flat, from the past several months. So the other data beyond the sales prices hasn't really changed a whole lot. Just kind of bouncing around, the same. If you've watched my previous market reports, and you can pull those up on my YouTube channel, most of your other data has been pretty flat. But again, we are coming into the holiday season, so seasonal factors will start slowing down our overall, price volume and things of that sort. And then coming into the holiday season, really what we're going to be looking at is the year over year data, because that's when obviously the seasonal, that takes out the seasonal aspect of that data. So I'll be watching that, over the coming months to see if the overall trend continues downward, or whether, again, they're talking about $2,000 stimulus checks coming out. They're talking about 50-year mortgages, that could stimulate the economy, and could possibly see a boost. However, it may be temporary. Again, we really need to see strong economic growth. I do know, my understanding is, there's lots of companies that are supposed to be coming to, to build factories in the U.S. However, that is going to take time. It could take from the time a factory is planned, as much as 5 years before, we start seeing people getting hired to work in those, new factories. Obviously, that's, it's great for our future if that is truly happening. However, that's not going to affect necessarily the home prices in the next 6 months. So, again, I'll be watching that, that trend, the coming trends over the coming months. So, I'm gonna pull up the. Let me go to the local data here. There we are. And I want to show you here I can show you the list prices. Again, you can see all the way back to last year, November of last year, we've pretty much been on this continual uptrend of sellers, increasing their list price as they sell. We also saw throughout the summer, did see some higher price homes that sold in that 700,000 $800,000 $1 million price point. Not many, but we did see some, and that helped also keep these numbers elevated. But you can see here in the past month, like I said, this was the first very significant decline, and like I said, I'm going to be watching that. Some of that's going to be seasonal. So again, slower sales time. People, Thanksgiving, Christmas, you're not going to see as many sales or as many buyers, maybe not as many high-end buyers out. So that does affect seasonality. However, I'm going to show you in another slide here in just a minute that does if you use the year-over-year data, you generally take that out of the equation. And here you can also see, again, starting in March, the actual solds data where the sellers are actually selling and where buyers are actually buying versus what is being put on the market. You can see there's been just pretty much a continual decline. We got one little bump here in the pended prices. But again, from ever since March, we've just seen this continual march downward of sold prices. Like I said, and then because we're already back to where we were, almost back to where we were a year ago on sold prices. And home prices typically are supposed to go up every year. I mean, at least that's what historically has happened, even if it's by a small percentage. So we're getting very dangerously close to a negative situation annually, as I talked about earlier. Now let me go and pull up the next slide here. Next slide, again, as I was telling you earlier, this is the data that really is concerning, and this is for the second month in a row we're seeing this year-over-year decline in the median sold price, down almost 4.3% from October of 2024 to October of 2025. You can see that's a pretty drastic decrease where the median sale price was almost 280 last year. Now we're well under 270, 267.9. Same with if you use the average. So again, we're looking at median and average here. Again, down 2.28%. So like I said, that's something to definitely keep an eye on. And I'll pull up this is kind of the summary of the data. As I was telling you earlier, most of the data has been pretty flat from last month, other than this median sales price, which is a significant drop. And the average days on market, 70, 70, 71, 73. That's kind of what we've seen over the past 3 months. Historically, not terrible for Wayne County. However, I do believe, with the internet being so prevalent and data being available almost pretty much instantly when a house is listed. I know historically Wayne County was 90 days. But that's taken into account a lot of times over the past 25 years, at least since I've been in the business, you had as much as a week delay there a lot of times for it going into the newspaper because most people, weren't checking the internet back then. So that's where that 90-day average came from. That it's kind of been historically for Wayne County. But I do think we're probably sitting around the average about where we should be now for the internet. With the internet, data being available immediately as soon as someone lists a home for sale. So, again, something to watch. 70 days. We don't want to see this go much higher. If we start seeing inventories, your active listings, we see this number creep up. When we see this number creep up, and the sold to list ratio, which has pretty much been flat, it didn't move from last month really. If we start to see that drop, then we know we've really got an issue in our local housing market here. But as of right now, I'm not seeing, nothing to be alarmed about. Again, we've got seasonality coming in, less people buying because of the holidays. So again, until January, February, end of February rolls around, we'll be able to really get a handle on where we're at in the market, barring just some absolutely horrible economic news coming out. I do know the unemployment rate has started to creep up some, and so that's something we definitely want to watch. And if that does happen, and we see things, the unemployment rate jump, that could affect our market quite a bit. But let me that is all of the summary data. And so what does this mean for you? If you're going to be, so let's say you're thinking about buying or selling a house, here in the near future. As a potential home buyer, it means that you definitely, shouldn't overpay for a home right now. Unless it's just this one of a kind type property, obviously that's always going to be in demand. There's plenty of inventory right now to choose from, with 400 homes on the market, and that's just in the Hive MLS. There's some that are listed in the Triangle MLS in this area as well. So there's plenty of inventory to pick from. Builders, they're giving special deals right now, and sellers are eager to sell their homes that may have been sitting on the market for that 60, 70 days, like I was just showing you. If you're looking at selling your house, you need to analyze, how much time you need to sell, and also how much, what is your patience? Every person is different. When I analyze a home to be sold, I give sellers kind of a suggested, price range to choose from, and I'll say, hey, this is probably the price, that I probably would recommend based on the things that you're telling me, in your time frame. And then, but ultimately, it's up to you. But, like I said, depending on your circumstances, you need to choose what part of that range, will give you the best outcome possible, in this slow and softening, real estate market. And also, going into the holiday, slower season as well. The great thing is the markets are still functional. We don't have gridlock, and we don't have a housing inventory crisis anymore. So as a buyer, there's homes to pick from. If you're a seller, you can still sell your home right now. There's still, there's buyers out there looking, hunting, and the key, really the key is to hire an experienced, intelligent real estate professional to help, guide you, for your best income. And, that's what my job is. That's, obviously I enjoy making these videos and talking about the market. But ultimately, what my specialty is, and, what I've been doing for 26 years now, is helping buyers and sellers, get exactly as close to what they're looking for, the best deal, fair market deal, and that I can get. So, But that is the November, the stats, the November monthly market update, using the latest data. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out. I'll be glad to go over any of this data with you. Again, if you've got a home to sell, give you some of the best rates in the county. It's full service, and if you're a home buyer, I work anywhere from Clayton, Raleigh, typically Clayton, but all the way to the coast. Our MLS system now is integrated. I've sold houses down in Southport. I've got land under contract with a buyer in Trenton right now. So anywhere that you want to go in Eastern North Carolina, look me up. I'd be glad to sit down with you or go over the phone with you, find out exactly what you're looking for, go through that MLS, pull you up some listings. I may have some insights that you may not have. I mean, obviously Zillow and sites like that are great, where you can get all that data in one place. But Zillow doesn't have all the data necessarily. And also, like I said, I can have the insights, look for flood zones, potential problems, things to look out for. You've got, hog farms, you've got things of that sort, you've got noise, possible noise issues depending on where you're looking. And I can, like I said, kind of be your guide and help you with that, as well as, financing. I've got several lenders, do 100% financing. I've got lenders who can help you do work on the property after closing, so you can actually finance in some repairs that I can point you to as well as some that'll help with credit repair. So anyway, that's what I do. I love helping people, and if you do need any help, you like somebody to take a look at your home, get you a good price, that that house is going to sell within that 70-day average time frame or less. Give me a call and I'll be glad to help. And anyway, thanks for watching.